Okay, these are the notes from Tuesday, September 1st for EG325. In this class, we're going to review some kickoff logistics, including the syllabus, the Brightspace page, and McGraw-Hill. We'll look at some resources, or at least discuss them, talk about the weekly expectation, course outlines, and then something that we'll discuss in class will be the idea of study groups. So as we talk about logistics and resources here, I'm going to bring up the syllabus real quick. Your required reading for the week is the syllabus along with chapter 1. There is a link to the bookstore for the textbook. There is a link to my virtual office hours. If that changes, I'll be sure to update the syllabus as well as my faculty information. So there is an ebook available through Shapiro Library, and I will be showing you how to find that in Shapiro Library. The prerequisites we'll talk about shortly, course description, so you can see all of this. Their course outcomes are very specific. We have some pretty standard information in all of the syllabi. Please review your expectations there, grading, and the course schedule. So I'm not going to spend a bunch of time in class or in these notes going over the syllabus, but that is your responsibility to read. The McGraw-Hill page and the Brightspace page. And so this might not be your section of mechanics of materials. There are two sections here. Let's see. Okay, so what you'll see is I'm using the activity feed to try to keep things up in posts. I'll generally post an announcement as well, but I know you can dismiss those announcements, and that's fine. Under the table of contents here, you will find content modules, and I'll be posting weekly content. I will post the publisher provided slides. Some people find those as an easy way to review chapters. There will be a weekly overview that gives you an idea of what we're trying to do. There will also be deliverables and connection of deliverables to course outcomes as appropriate. There are no deliverables this week. It is add drop, so there will be no deadlines or deliverables this week. You can always find the syllabus module. As dates get filled in, you'll see those on the front page. And my last comment would be, I believe it's called Brightspace Pulse, is the app that you can get on your mobile that will keep you up to date on all things Brightspace. The McGraw-Hill Connect widget is here. We will be discussing McGraw-Hill in class, and I will be posting review questions as practice assignments. So we will discuss this further in class. If you have questions, please feel free to ask if you can't make it to class. I will post an update here about McGraw-Hill after class. I want to wait until I've talked to students before I post much more. Here, so the resources, you should all have instructions about Splashtop to access the CETA Labs remotely. If you don't, I want you to email, and I'll put the email right here, joedonovan@snhu.edu, and ask him about Splashtop. He will fill you in. The supplemental ebook, which is at Shapiro Library, let's see here. So if I go to, and this I'm not sure is showing up in your window. So we're going to go home here. You may have to log in to get to this page. We have a book. It is called Advanced Mechanics of Materials, and it is by A.P. Baresi and R.J. Schmidt. And if you do a search for that, the very first item should be a link to the ebook. Yes. And so you can view this at Novel, and this is just a supplemental text to the textbook called McGraw-Hill. It's a bit more of a graduate level textbook, but some of the derivations can be more thorough and helpful for those of you who are having trouble following the derivations in the more accessible text that was assigned as the required textbook for the class. Okay, and so our weekly expectations. I want the week here to be considered Saturday to Friday. And so I include the weekend there because I know that some of you will prefer to work weekdays, some of you weekends, and some of you it will vary by week. So I want you to arrange your week such that you're working the hours that works best for you, but I want you to think about Saturday and Sunday as the start of the next week, not the end of the previous. What this means is deliverables are due on Friday. That avoids the conflict of you wanting to ask questions on Saturday and Sunday and me being perhaps less available. I will make sure that weekly overviews for the next week are posted by Thursday, and then you have a chance to review content in anticipation of Tuesday's class. I want you to take notes. I want you to bring questions, and I will sometimes ask you to show me your notes when you're having trouble with content in particular. Tuesdays will be review and application of content so that we can take a step further than the readings and videos got you. I'll take questions, and we will have some small group work. On the second meeting of the week, so for some of you that's Thursday and others it's Friday, we'll review the deliverables due that week, and we'll have mixed group discussions relevant to where we are in the course. Sometimes this will be related to project work, which will be a mix of individual and small group. Sometimes this will be related to content and foundational understanding of relationships in the text. And so it'll be a mix, but expect class to be fairly active. I don't think it's a good use of class time to run through PowerPoints very often. As an overview of the course, I want you to think about this in the context of mechanical design, and that is what Chapter 1 provides. It's the context and the motivation for why we study mechanics of materials. We don't do this just for something to do on a Thursday afternoon. Mechanical design is informed by material selections, loads and stresses, resulting deflections, and failure. And so if you're going to design anything, the mechanical design must consider the mechanics of the materials involved. And so Chapter 1 is largely context and motivation. It's got a really broad look at engineering design, and I think it's a lot of fun. It kind of leads into the rest of the content in the book. I think this book is pretty great, so you might want a copy of the loose leaf paper. I think it will serve as a good reference for you in junior design, in capstone. It looks like it really covers mechanical design thoroughly. Chapter 2 will review and extend beyond what you covered in materials science, everything that leads into our understanding of how a material will perform is based on that materials science. And then we'll get into analyzing loads and stresses in static scenarios, which will lead us into deflection, right? And as we consider stresses and deflections, now we can consider mechanical failure, very specifically in static loading. And Chapter 6, which is where we'll end this semester, gets into fatigue or failure due to cyclic loading. There's lots of interesting examples of mechanical failure, both due to static loading and cyclic loading. And we will get into those case studies and analysis. And then one last note here for our first day's content, if you will, is how the prerequisites and in both engineering and math fill in with this course, and then where this is then useful. So you will need to brush off your memories about Mechanics of Materials 1 and Materials Science. And so for some of you, these are a few semesters ago. For others, maybe this was just in the spring. They are foundational to everything we will do this semester. Statics as well, but Mechanics of Materials 1 was so steeped in statics that I consider those very much overlapping there. You will want to have finished linear algebra, but you should also be either finished or in Calculus 3. I think largely that's going to have to do, you know what, I'll let that speak for itself. And as we get into each chapter, as I find the prerequisite knowledge that is particularly relevant, I will highlight that as I can. Now, Mechanics 2 is going to lead into design of machine components, which interestingly is much of the content of the second half of this book. And so, like I said, I think it will be a very good reference for you. It is also necessary for mechanical design analysis, which will be relevant in junior engineering design and capstone. And so with that, I'll conclude the video. Your questions by email are welcome. Please read the syllabus. Please open up chapter 1 of the assigned text, and I look forward to seeing you in class. A side note, one last note, is if you can't make it to class, please do remember to either come to office hours the week that you miss class, or schedule an appointment with me so that we can at least touch base, check in, make sure that everything's clear. Communication and those sorts of check-ins will be crucial as we all look for the ways through this extraordinary learning experience of distance learning and education. Okay, thanks, folks.